Hi everyone, this is Heather Lawton from the Flourish.Academy. This is episode 468. Today we're talking about pricing. I had a friend email me recently and she just simply asked, how do you know if you're charging too much or too little for your photography? Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to have a conversation around this because my response to that question would have been too much or too little according to whom? So one of the biggest mistakes I see photographers making around pricing is they are projecting their thoughts on what they would pay onto their clients and onto their market. And that's always going to be a mistake because we have different levels of expectations and what we would spend on different types of services. Let me give you an example. I have two friends that if you were to ask them, like let's say we're going in together on a gift for another friend, and we're trying to decide with how much to contribute. I have one friend that would say something like, oh, you know what, is $20 enough? Would that be okay, to contribute towards that group gift? I have another friend who would literally say, do you think 2,000 is enough? Do you think that's enough to contribute to that gift? Okay, obviously these two people are on different ends of a spectrum. One thinks $20 is a lot and the other thinks 2,000 is maybe too little. So when you're talking about pricing, you're saying too high or too low, you have to ask yourself compared to what? Compared to your market or what other photographers are doing? Now, when I'm teaching the Pricing for Profitability course, what I love the most is there is an art and there is a science to pricing. Yes, of course you have to consider your skill set, your market, what you're worth, the value you're bringing, your deliverables, all of those are important. That's the science of pricing. The art of pricing is one of the reasons I love being in this business because the reality is you can do and charge whatever you want. I mean, we all drive different vehicles, right? So if Chevy can make a vehicle that you can buy for $20,000, why would anyone spend $80,000, $100,000 or more on a Tesla? Both of those vehicles get you to the same destination, but there's obviously a market for each of them. And photography is no different. There are people that will spend very little on photography because they do not value it. It's not high on their priority list. And then there are people that will spend thousands. Now, the funny thing is I'm very risk averse and I'm very scientific with my approach. I am a scientist. That's how I approach everything. I love research. I love to be knowledgeable, but I also love to push the envelope. So I want to say this is maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I decided to push my prices over $5,000 to photograph a wedding. Now, it's 2019 in our market, the Pittsburgh market, that's not unheard of, but almost a decade ago, it was like off the charts. Plus, I live in a county, in a community that is poverty stricken. If you do the research, the areas around us have a very high unemployment rate and a very high poverty rate. I wasn't targeting people in my backyard. I was targeting people beyond the area I lived in. So the area I live in is completely irrelevant. Where I choose to live and where I choose to work are two completely different things. So that's nothing to do with it. So I was targeting a different market. I wanted to see, could I push that envelope and get 5,000? I had people to my face tell me I was crazy. Other photographers, even some clients, potential clients that didn't hire me were like, whoa, that's just crazy. This market can't support those prices. And I was like, really? Watch me. And it worked. You know why? Because I was confident. I believed in my value. I believed in my skill set. And people are willing to pay for that. You just have to find the right people. Now listen, when I was charging $500 and I was brand new, and by the way, my price fit my experience. I was okay with that. When I was charging $500, the people that hired me, for the most part, they knew my name, but not always. Sometimes they were like, hey, photographer lady. I typically did not have enough time for photos. They didn't plan for photos. They didn't care about photos. And that was obvious in the amount of money they spent. And by the way, they hired a brand new photographer with no experience. So it was clear photography was not their priority. As I increased my prices and I got up to that over $5,000, People started falling all over themselves to not only pay me, but give me exactly what I wanted and needed in terms of the time. In fact, brides would reach out to me and ask me to help them build their timeline, and they built it around photography. Of course they did. They just spent $5,000. So they're gonna make that a huge priority on their wedding day. I would show up at weddings and I would have brides say to their family, to their bridal party, they'd say, do whatever Heather asks. Whatever she asks, just do it. She's the best. She's awesome. But really, I think what was happening is like, hey, I spent a ton of money on this photographer. I want to make sure I get good photos. So they obviously prioritize photography. Not everybody will. So the question is not, how do you know if you're charging too much or too little? Are you attaching the right amount of value to you, to your services, to your experience? And second part, very important, are you marketing and communicating that value appropriately? Because here's the thing, if you don't believe in your skill set and your pricing and where you're at, nobody else is going to believe it either. In fact, I would argue you have to believe in yourself even like 10 times more than what you're charging. Because if you don't believe in it, then people aren't going to really, I mean, you put out that energy, right? You put out, confidence is something that you can sense. And if you're like, oh, well, you know, my price is $5,000 okay? And you have this type of body language, not that you would do that, but by the way, it would just come across, and at a subconscious level, they would read it. If you don't believe in it, they're never going to pay it. When somebody would ask me my pricing, I would sit up straight and I would say it's $5,000. No, I'm sorry. Or is that out of your budget? Or is that okay? What does that communicate? That communicates that I don't believe in it. Whereas if you just sit there with complete confidence and state your prices, people will pay it. Yes, you have to be a decent photographer. You have to be able to deliver photos that are sharp, in focus, and edited well. Of course, I am not downplaying any of that. But it really doesn't matter to me. Too high or too little is really not the question. It's really, what is your experience and what is it worth to you? So I've set what I call Heather's happy price. So if you want to get me off of my homestead on a Saturday in the summer, it is currently going to cost you $8,200 because that's what it's worth for me to leave. If people want to pay it, fantastic. And if they don't, that's great. I will happily refer them to all of the photographers that I work with. I would love to spread my market around. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, there is somewhat of a scientific answer to that question, however. Although I would argue it's mostly the art of science in that case. But if you want to say, like, am I charging too little? I would say, do you have more clients than you can handle? Are you busier than you want to be? If the answer to that question is yes, this becomes a very straightforward supply-demand, black and white model, raise your prices. You just don't have enough to cover it all. Are you charging too much? Okay. It's really easy for some people to say at this point, oh, you know what, I'm not getting the clients that I want, must be my pricing, has to be my pricing. Did it ever occur to you that maybe it's your photos or your personality? Is that a possibility? Oh no. No, it's 100% the pricing. I'm sure if I lowered the prices, I could get customers. I'm not sure that that's it. I don't think, if your prices are too high, you're probably just not communicating the value clearly enough. Not that everyone will see the value. Again, that's okay. I still have phone calls with photographers who call me to book me for private mentoring and fall over at my private mentoring rates. Okay, then it's not going to work out. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to let that influence my pricing. That would be a huge mistake. I am in tune with my market. Don't mishear me. But I will not allow the market to dictate my pricing nor my happy price, right? That makes sense. Okay, listen, I have the Pricing for Profitability course in the Flourish.Academy. I think it's amazing. I recently changed up my pricing model. You can get it for $29. $29. You can watch the art and the science of pricing and understand how, number one, you can make money as a hobbyist legally. Number two, you can build your lifestyle business however you want. If you want to make a little bit of money on the side so that you can buy more gear, and you want to remain a hobbyist, and you don't really want to turn this into a business, I have that in the course. If, however, you're in business or you want to start a business and you want to make sure that you're pricing appropriately, I highly recommend you take a look at this course. I'm going to post the link below. Again, you can have access to it for $29. But listen, here's the thing. If you're not willing to drop $29 to make sure your pricing is right, I can't help you anyway. And the thing is, the transformation is in the transaction. People do not value what they don't pay for. So if you are giving away your services, or you're doing it really, really cheap because you don't feel that you are ready enough yet, don't expect the people that you're photographing to value what you're doing. In fact, they may take advantage of you. You may feel a little bit put out, but that's not their fault. You're setting a price that tells them you don't value it. So why would they? I have my prices so high right now for weddings that if a bride calls me, even my current clients are like, oh, I don't want to bother you. I know you're really busy. Actually, I'm not. I own time. But they highly, highly respect my time and my skill because of that price. Do I think I'm pushing the envelope with my pricing in the wedding market in Pittsburgh? 100% yes. But I don't care. I don't care how ridiculous you think it is. I don't care how ridiculous any bride thinks it is. That's where I'm at in my lifestyle business. That's why pricing for profitability is so important, to understand the art and science of pricing. Yes, there are numbers you need to know. That is the science. But the art comes from establishing your business, charging what you want, based on how you want to approach your photography. Again, I'll post that link below. Let me know your thoughts, or if you have any questions. I'm pretty passionate about this topic. I'll see you in the next video.